Hi, and welcome back to my playthrough of Mount Everest. I was really a little bit worried because I haven't received any comments or notifications from you in respect to errors, but luckily now they're there, and it seems that I really made plenty of them. And one of the most important might be that the client of this guide here, of this player here, would not have died, because in a turn before I really forgot to give the client an additional acclimatization level. And I'd really try to recreate that, but it's really too tough to do that, to be honest. So right now I have to live with that, but I really think that it would be possible for him to save the client actually. One additional thing I forgot to mention, and of course also forgot to play, was that you have to load your guides basically from top to bottom. So when you, let's say, would place an oxygen tank, you always have to start that here on the top. So I think during, I don't know at which minute this was, during the last episode, I loaded this from below and then I loaded 3 clients up. This is something I can repair, and I definitely will repair. So I will get rid of one of these clients, and there was also one of these clients that I have also forgotten during the last turn or so, or the turn before. They would gain 1 level of acclimatization, which I just forgot. So for now I will just get rid of this client. So I will send him back to base camp. Of course he's not going to die. And there is one additional thing, and this is concerning the clients here. I think during the last turn I forgot to give them also 1 level of acclimatization. But as I am not repairing this for the blue player and he really suffered a loss there, I will not do that for the red player as well. Still, I believe I have to get rid of one of these oxygen tanks because of my rule misinterpretation here. This is something I'm not so sure if I will do that, but yeah, let's do that. So let's get rid of 1 oxygen tank here. He was not allowed to bring him up. I think this was more or less basically the same rule I did wrong, so loaded from the bottom instead of the top. So I think I have repaired now most of my mistakes. The weather will be fine for the next, at least 3 days, including this one. And then we will have some slightly bad weather. I think this is something we can cope with. So, I think we can get started. We draw 6 new cards. Blue will go with these 3 cards. And red will use this oxygen here to draw 3 new acclimatization cards. And again, this will be easy to choose. So he will go with this card. And he will get rid of this card for that. And I think red will go, with these cards. Blue has to take 1 risk token and he will go for this one. Let's reveal a new one. And then red will start his turn. So I think he will play this card here on this guide. So he has 2 points that he can spend. We will do that on these 2 levels. And he will use this downward movement on the other climber guide. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Blue will play this 1 acclimatization card on this camp here. It's allowed, so we can move 1 client up. And then we will use these cards here. None of these is carrying a tourist at this point in time, or a climber. Note we have to still deal with the risk token here, so that's 5 point worth of movement, and right now it really doesn't matter who you bring down, so that's 2, 4, and 5 points. Let's do the acclimatization, so they would gain 2 points worth of acclimatization. Of course they're pretty maxed out, only this climber here moves 1 space up. The weather is fine, so each of them is gaining 1 level of acclimatization, but again they lose 1 level of acclimatization because they're here, so this is balanced out. And basically these guys are still considered to be in the camp, so the guide is still at the camp, so I don't need to bring them back and forth, to be honest. So we are just waiting for the right cards to show up, so they would gain 1 level of acclimatization because they are at a camp, and then they would lose 2 levels of acclimatization because of the bad conditions here at the height above 8,000 meters. Let's move the day track and draw 3 new cards. Okay, red will go for these cards. Blue will take these 3 cards. This time red has to go for a risk token, and let's reveal a new one. And blue will start this round, so he will play these 3 cards on this guide here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Not so sure if this will make any sense, to be honest. So let's play these cards on this guide here. So that's now some very nice movement points. Of course, we still need to deal with this risk token with a level 1, and we would need 1, 2, 3, 4 movement points up to the summit. And I think we will take these 2 cards, so we can also directly get rid of the risk token here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 basically, because of the risk token. And then we would use this card with 4 movement points down. And that's now 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of our clients have reached the summit now. So we can flip them on the other side here. In total, that's now 10 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. I'm pretty sure they won't survive this, at least some of those. I'm really worried about these 2 guys up there, and this was really a pity that I haven't drawn any acclimatization card for the red player. Nevertheless, they would have died, so I think either way this was the right decision to go to the summit, so we could at least bring these 2 guys to the summit. Maybe we will be able to bring them back down safely. Let's do the acclimatization. They will stay where they are. They would gain 1 level of acclimatization. They would lose 1 level of acclimatization, so they're fine. Now we will definitely offload the clients at the campsite. So these were at level 2 and those were at level 1. Now each of them would gain 1 level of acclimatization because they're back at the camp. Unfortunately, they would lose 2 levels of acclimatization because the sector here tells us to, so they will 1, 2, they will die. Wow, pity, what happens here. And these 2 guys will only lose 2 levels of acclimatization. That's 1 and 2. So they might really be able to make it back to the safe camp. Still, we have to now suffer a loss, so that's 3 for each of these climbers here. So red would lose 6 points of victory points. So he's back at 9 victory points now. And all the other tourists or clients should be fine at this point in time. So they would gain theoretically 2 levels, but again, they're maxed out already. Again, we move our day track, and again, we draw 3 new cards. Red will go with these 3 cards, and I guess blue will take this or these cards. Really problematic that blue hasn't drawn any blue acclimatization cards. I think he only has 2, but I was really hoping to get one to bring them down, because right now I need 5 movement points up and 4 movement points down to bring them back to base camp. And everything else doesn't really make sense, because if I would, let's say, keep them here or keep the guide here this height, they would lose 2 levels of acclimatization. And these 2 climbers would die, and this would really help at all. Again, red has to choose a risk token, so he will take this one, of course. We'll reveal a new one. Then this guide here will load these 2 clients, so they will do that here. And then we play these 3 cards to this client. We have to deal with a risk token here, so that would be 5 movement points down. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we are now really in a very good position. For once, the weather is nice, so we don't suffer any penalty because we are above 8,000 meters, and there is also no real let's say tough terrain here, so that they would lose 1 level of acclimatization. That's really awesome for the red player. Then we play this card on this guy to move him 1, 2, 3 spaces down to the base camp. And right now I'm really not sure if this makes any sense still, but I will try that. So I will load 1 oxygen tank, and this time I will do it right. So I will start at the top row, and I think I will also load 2 additional tourists. They will start at level 1, of course, and I think I will play the remaining cards on this guide as well to move him 3 spaces up, so that's 1, 2 and 3. Let's do our acclimatization. They're in a good height, so they would gain 1 level of acclimatization. These two, they will stay where they are because they're in a neutral location right now. They would gain 1 level and they would lose 1 level of acclimatization. And these clients are already maxed out, so they don't gain or lose anything. Now let's go to the last weather token here, weather tile. So again, we will have some clouds today, so the weather is not that nice. So we really have to be careful, especially for the blue player above the 7,000 meters. We will draw 3 new cards. Blue will go for these cards, and this time we got the four movement points down card. So this is really awesome. So he might also be able to bring some clients to the summit this turn. And I think red will go with these 3 cards. And I really have a problem now. So blue has to go for one of these risk tokens here. Of course he will go for this one. Let's reveal a new one. Wow, the next round might be tough. And this is now really tough. I cannot make it to the summit when I use this for penalty on my movement. So I think I have to, I have to do that to lose 1 level of acclimatization for all the clients. Okay, let's do that. So for once, let's load these 2 guys to the guide here and this one as well. And I think then I will play all these 3 cards on this guide here. I will not lose or use the risk token for the movement, but for the acclimatization. So all the clients that are with this guide would lose a level of acclimatization. And I decided it, and now I will live with the decision. So let's see what the movement values are. Okay, we need 5 movement points up, so we have taken care of the risk token here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So these 2 cards are already in order. So right now these 3 guys have reached the summit. Yay! And therefore I gain 6 victory points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And then I will use this card here, so the movement value of 4 back down, so that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. And there I will load the clients off, so that's 1 client here and 2 clients here. And then I will play these 3 cards on this guy to move him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 spaces down to base camp. Then I will get rid of those 2 climbers, or in this case tourist, and therefore red gains another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 victory points. Awesome! Let's do the acclimatization. The tourists at this guide would gain 1 level of acclimatization. These are still maxed out. And here I would gain 1 level of acclimatization for this one, 1 level of acclimatization for this one because they're a base camp, but then we would lose 1 level here and also 1 additional level for the bad weather, so they would be 1, 2 spaces down. They also would be 1, 2 spaces down, and this means blue again loses 6 victory points. Again, he is back at only 4 victory points. Let's move the day track, and this was really a pity that these days are in that order, not the other way around, because then blue would have kept his 2 climbers. But today would be a nice day, so we might be really able to get at least the last client of the blue climber down, and also maybe bring some additional clients back up, but I'm right now not so sure. We will draw our remaining cards from the draw pile, so these are now the 6 final cards for this playthrough. And I have to confess that with these cards, the red player will never make it to the summit again. So we would need 2 spaces down to pick up some clients here, and then he would move them back up with only, I think, maybe 4 movement points or 5 movement points. So I think for red it really doesn't make any sense to move on at this point in time. He's at 15 victory points here, so I think for him it's more or less pretty clear. And blue would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 movement points to bring his last tourist down. 12 movement points of downward movement. He would also have 1 acclimatization card, which he would need in order to, yeah, more or less survive that, but it won't be a problem to bring this client back down. So let's just consider he did so. Let's just prove that we are really right here. So in the first round we would play these 3 cards. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The client would gain 3 levels of acclimatization. 1, 2 and 3. Then he would lose 1 level of acclimatization again, down to 3 here. And then in the next round he would play these 3 cards here, and this would be then 1, 2 and 3 first card, and then 1, 2, 3 and 4 the last card. This would score him 1, 2 additional victory points, and that's more or less it. And this ends my playthrough of Mount Everest, and you can clearly see that Red won this game by far. So I was really wrong with, let's say, assuming too early that he wouldn't have a chance to beat the blue player. I think the right decision was to place this base camp here above the 8,000 meter line and also bringing enough oxygen tanks. I think this is really key to the game. You need the acclimatization cards on your hand in order to protect your clients. I really apologize for the errors I have made, but again, I'm learning this game and I'm really thankful to you guys out there for making me aware of my mistakes. In this case, I could not correct all of them because then I would really have to redeal some of the turns, and this is something I don't want to do here. I tried to correct them and I mentioned them as good as I can, so I hope still this playthrough gives you a good idea of how Mount Everest works and if it would be a right fit for you. Yeah, and I think and I hope that I will see you again in one of my next playthroughs. I'm really looking forward to one. I'm not telling you what I'm planning to do at this point in time, but I'm pretty sure it will be cool. I have to see if the space would be sufficient here in my little room, but somehow I will sort it out. Yeah, and then hope to see you soon, and until then, bye bye.